there's so much activity, so much movement. Lots of beautiful information that is being offered. Heartfelt connection. But the thing about the taste of yourself, the nature of your existence, it is made accessible in the simple recognition that there's nothing you can really know. Nothing. The thing about information is that it is all built out of memory. Almost everyone, even almost all spiritual seekers, live their life built out of memory. Everything you know arises out of the past in the form of memory. Your identity, the simple labeling and defining of things, the ability to project into a future is built upon information based on the past. But the thing about your existence is you have only always existed now. You have never for an instant ever existed in a past. There is no intersecting point with a past in your existence. Another word is the feeling of your being, feeling of the heart. But the thing about the feeling of your being, the feeling of your heart, is that if the habit of living out of memory is released, there is no identity. What is recognized as the habit of experiencing life through a point of reference is built out of a memory which creates an identity of who I am. The experience of linear time is built out of an identity. Because your existence is not in linear time, it's always now. You always exist now. You cannot fully taste your existence if you are lost in the story of the habit of memory. Everybody is so busy running from event to event. Looking for more information, looking to find something out. It is when everything is dropped, when there is the severing of the hypnotic trance of living in memory, which is living in the past, in which you have never existed for an instant. It is the severing of this habit. It is the taste of what is called now. It is not tasted somewhere, it is not defined. It is free of the habit of memory. It is not in time, it is always now. It is not in a point of reference, it is felt everywhere. It is not looking to understand something. It is the simple nature of existence. It is the simple nature of the feeling of your being. Has nothing to do with what this character is speaking. If you are in contact with the feeling of your being, which is now, it is all appearing within that feeling. When one is in touch with this feeling, it is the end of the experience of doing. The experience of doing appears when there is falling away from the feeling of your own existence. Nature of conditioned mind is built so much on constant speed and change, looking to be entertained. Always searching, running, trying to understand. Every shred of it built out of memory. Memory called what is referred to as past. But if you try to feel into past without the habit of a story, you can never find anything. You can never find something concrete without a story known as the past. It's impossible. If you look for the past, you find the present. Because the present is where you exist. And then there is the habit of this story. In an environment like this, it's the story of the character who's trying to awaken, but it's just a story. It's derived out of memory. There is an energy that you begin to feel that begins to come alive when that habit is let go of. You can feel the energy in this room is different now than when we started. The more the attention is turned to it, the more the habit of being constantly contained and controlled by thought, creating the experience of living through a point of reference, creating the experience of doing, all only coming into the experience when there is the loss of touch with the nature of your existence. As you fall into it, it becomes more and more and more alive. All actions of the body become like the beating of the heart. The heart, no doubt, is beating, but how much relationship do you have with it? Do you have the experience that you are beating the heart? The experience of doing arises out of the loss of connection with being. Being is not in the past, and it is not in the future. It never has been. It is not owned by someone. It is the feeling. It is the nectar that descriptors will never be able to wrap around. It lives in the willingness to live yourself in the unknown, because the unknown means the absence of relationship with mind, which is built out of the fabrication of the past. It is not about receiving the words. It has nothing to do with content. It has to do with the feeling of yourself. It has to do with where the life comes from. Too slow moving. It's when the words stop that you start to feel it more. Not because it is more present when the words stop, but because the attention stops being focused in a particular location. So I am happy to open the floor for any questions. There's a gentleman right here who...
I would like to rest more in the timeless now, okay? Could you talk a little bit about, and let me back up a step. Sometimes I lose sensitivity to time and realize how flexible it is. For example, if I'm in pain or walking on a treadmill with nothing else to do, 5 minutes seems like an hour. If I'm involved in something that I'm totally engaged and focused with, an hour seems like a minute. Inside resting in a timeless now, could you talk a little bit about balancing that with paying the bills so they don't cut the lights and the water off?
Yes, I can. The experience of doing, which is the common experience almost all the time in everyone's life, is something only that arises when you have lost contact with the feeling of what is present. They cannot arise simultaneously. Now, there is a belief that there is an individual who chooses, who makes the choice to pay the bills and get things done. And that is absolutely 100% the way it seems, unless one is really, really serious about exploring who you are. Unless one is so serious about it that it is more important to explore who you are than to do the tasks that you feel entrapped by. I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I'm sure you're hearing it from presenter after presenter, that the separate one is a myth. It all gets taken care of. The thing about it, it's not about applying this to the world, it's about applying this to this moment. Anything other than the feeling of this moment is the habit of distraction which pulls the film over the eyes such that it is impossible to see. It is only about this. You may say that I am speaking, but it is not my experience. Just like if I said to you, you are beating your heart. There is a vibration in the sound. It has an energy in there. And the reason why that is the case is because it is not arising out of imagination. But it still happens. The difference of what happens is when there is no one busy in this illusion of some separate one in their struggles, what moves through is either pure passion or pure compassion. These are the forces that drive the organism. And either way, it is infused with this love and beauty. And the need to understand something just falls by the wayside. When you are engaged in the most beautiful thing you've ever tasted, you are not busy trying to understand. It's the nature of life when the hunger to know the truth is stronger than anything else. What is the doorway? It's this moment. It's not about what the character in the chair is saying. It's about the feeling of your being. It's about letting go of the habit of following phenomena and simply feeling the nature of your existence. When that is felt, then every character appears within this unbound feeling. Then you can really imbibe the gift of what was called the world. You can imbibe the gift of all of this that it was intended to be, which is the roadmap into yourself. You know, coming here, there was a thing to fill out a thing about what was going to be spoken about. This kind of thing is not possible. Wouldn't know how to do it. There is a wisdom that is so much bigger than anything your mind has ever even begun to approximate. When there is the humility to let it all go, then there is a hole in this dream we call life, and something else takes over. It is not known by the mind. In the mind, it is called the unknown. The willingness to live out of the unknown is the humility that opens the door to the feeling of your being, the feeling of your heart, which is alive in this moment. It is always alive in this moment because it is always this moment. This moment is not in time. Time is in the creation of the mind, built out of memory, built out of a past, out of which you have never lived except imagination. Someone in the back has their hand up. Thank you.
I appreciate your peacefulness. It's very attractive. I'm new to non-duality, so I understand that enlightenment or self-realization is partially grace. I also understand that supposedly I already have it. So my question is, understanding that it's grace, what would be some activities, suggestions, recommendations on how to maximize the possibilities or probabilities of getting to enlightenment? And then the second question is there anything to the Shakti transmission stuff? And if there is, and if there is anything to this Shakti transmission stuff, how and where can I get it?
Okay, I'm going to start with the first question. If I forget the second one, remind me, because my memory, what you don't use tends to fall away. So the first thing is talking about enlightenment. It is far more humble and far more direct to recognize that your mind cannot really understand anything except a thought. All your mind can understand is a thought. All thought can lead to is another thought. Thought is what pulls attention away from yourself. It's a game. So there is this thought about enlightenment, which drives the desire system to get something. Based on the egoic interpretation, ego is driven by the hunger for pleasure and the fear of pain, which occurs in the body when you are identified with it. The ultimate pleasure from the ego's point of view is what it calls enlightenment, and that is why there is this desire. The direct path lies in humility. It is not about the separate character getting something. It lies in the willingness to let everything go. It lies in the humility of just being open to the grace of the offering. And the offering is every moment. Every moment is the perfect offering when you are humble and ready to receive. There is no moment where God is absent. Every single thing heard, everything seen, everything tasted, every movement, every second, you are being serenaded. And the mind is busy trying to look and search and change and manipulate and get. But the discovery is that even that is God, that nothing is separate. It is the receiving of every single thing the same, living stripped of beliefs and thoughts, and receiving the unspeakable grace of the beauty of the beloved that is pouring through everything all the time. This word about Shakti, there is Shiva and there is Shakti. Shiva is the unmanifest essence. Shakti is the manifest expression of creation. It is not divided and sliced up. It is not owned by some and not owned by others. It is the manifest expression of the unmanifest essence. Now it is true, when one is broken out of the box, the cage is not closed, so what flows through is not siphoned off by this prison, by this wall. People call that the transmission, Shakti. If you do not feel it right now, I don't think you would feel it. You ask where to go, it's happening right now.
I
If
feel
it is
like
not moving through, it means that whatever is being offered is moving through the mind. The mind is that which pulls you away from your existence. Your existence is eternally now. The mind is a knowing machine, except it doesn't know anything, but it pulls you away from what is, and thus the vital life energy is siphoned. And this is the way the common person lives. You want to know what to do? A serious response, what to do to follow this? Have a community in Mount Shasta. It's a drive away from here. People have devoted their entire lives to this. Whole community is awakening. That is the reason why, after many, many years of doing absolutely nothing like this, why some of these things are starting to happen now, because the need of a guide is falling away.
I do feel
You're very
the,
welcome. There's a hand in the back and hands over here. I don't know how much time we have.
First of all, I just want to appreciate your presence, that I see you going in and out of this realm and the stage starting to shift and move. And so I honor that part of you.
Yes, I honor that part of you that recognizes that. The part of you that recognizes that is not separate from that.
And my question is, this definition of doing and this definition of being, dropping into a profound space of being and being inspired by that, and out of that a movement wants to come. Do you define that as doing?
No. Doing is the experience of separation. Speaking is happening now. There is no sense of doing, but speaking is happening. Anytime there is an engagement with anything that there is deep passion around, there will never be the experience of doing.
So if there is a project and a vision that comes, and it's part of the thread of your being, and then that requires actually doing in the world.
Well, it moves. Movement happens, but any true artist, if it's true art, is not experiencing doing. They're lost in passion, and it's all moving. If you had a little baby and they were out in the road and the car was coming by and there was running and scooping up the baby, if you were really noticing, there is no experience in doing, it just happens. There is no sense of choice that I did this. There is no sense of separation. There's just this happening. The thing that makes art art is that the separate one takes a vacation for a little while. This question came up, how would you get the chores done? You look at a classical pianist who is really an artist and you watch their fingers move and it is beyond comprehension. And yet if they are an artist, the mind is completely empty. It is just pure passion that is moving through the body. This is why I say that when you are out of the box, the only things that move the form are passion and compassion. And there is no feeling of someoneness in either of them. There is the feeling of something of beauty, connectedness that is moving through. There is something that is unspeakable.
Thank you.
You are very, very welcome. So there's and then there was also someone back there, if there's time for him.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm still trying to get my handle around what you're saying. Um, it's it's it almost sounds like it's a beautiful goal for an enlightened, realized person, but the path to getting there, are you saying that that is just realizing that the now is all that exists?
That's right.
But there are you just constantly do that's your technique is
There's no such thing as constantly. That is a habit. What I would say is, if you're serious, you find an environment where there are other serious beings, and you commit yourself to that.
I see. So it is a process. Not everybody at your place is already having that experience. It is something they're working.
Well, we are, as human beings, we are very, very, very deeply entrenched in the mind, and it takes absolutely everything to break out of that habit. If it is going to happen, it has to be the most important thing in the life. The most important thing. The thing of it is, if it holds great importance, it will eventually become the most important thing because it is underneath the conditioning. But if does not get to the point, it gets to the point where it is the most important, and then eventually it gets to the point where it is the only thing. Nothing else matters. And that's when it does its work. Prior to that, it cannot do its work because it is a bargaining chip of the ego. It's to do when I am convenient, when it's convenient for me.
So if I were to, I would say practice, it seems that you, every time when you're doing something, making dinner or grocery shopping or whatever, which has to be done in order to maintain life, you're bringing yourself back only to the moment. Is that?
What I'm telling you is there is only this moment. Right now you are trying to understand something. It's understandable. It's what everybody does in the beginning. There is the fast track. You can understand till you die. You can find all the formulas, read all the scriptures, have all of the plans, all of the practices in place, but they are all mind-based. They are all about a past, tracking into the future, and bypassing where you live. The possibility right now is simply to feel what is locationless. It is the only thing that in fact is not away from you. It is to feel yourself. The more this happens, the more the hypnotic trance weakens. It's very simple.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, one more. The man right by the door. This is so unusual to be under this kind of time gun here. Got 2 more minutes. I mean, I understand that it's the way it has to work.
What is the correct way to understand humility?
What is the best way to understand humility?
What is the correct way to understand humility? Because it feels as though it shouldn't be as the separate individual giving thanks or gratitude to the reality. That feels a little dualistic.
Yes. Out of the illusion of being separate, which is born out of suffering, but the experience of separation is born out of an avoidance of, an attempt to avoid suffering. It's a whole long-winded thing I don't have time to go into. Out of that experience of being separate, then everything becomes about me. Everything. You become God. Everything becomes about you. Even this spiritual search, it's about me and my search. Humility is that which unravels the arrogance, which is every single thought. As you become more and more sensitive, you realize that if there is absolutely no arrogance at all, there is nothing to generate a thought. Now, it is not about trying to stop thinking. That is coming out of trying to get something. But it is about learning to receive the grace of the offer, meaning surrender. The recognition that there is nothing outside the hand of the source, that the beloved is infusing every single thing, including what the mind believes to be me. It is receiving all of it. It's not the character receiving his environment. It's receiving the whole thing, the sum total of all of it. And if the experience is I am identified as the character, I am hurting, it doesn't matter what it is. It's realizing that this is the offering now. This is the offering. This is the grace that maybe I cannot experience because there are still these walls. But when the burning phase is happening, when identification is happening, and you are open to receive, what the burning is it's burning down the walls. Everything is grace. There is nothing that is not grace. The ego cannot see it. The ego is based on desire and fear. When the burning phase is happening, what the ego fears is either being offered or what the ego desires is being taken. And when you are open to that, the burning is the burning away of the walls. And the willingness to open to that is humility. And when you get mature in the process of humility, what is discovered is opposed to getting the opening, which you thought it was what it was all about, you realize it is the process of being humbled that is the sweetest nectar of all. Thank you very much. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. So, I just send an open-hearted invitation. I come here, this is my second time because where I live is close. When retreats are offered, they're around this area. And anyone who is really, really serious about this is welcome. Thank you for your time. Thank you.